So I was debating within myself whether or not this video could have been made with a regular video game commentary-styled format. But then I realized that there were a whole bunch of quotes and a bunch of tweets and a bunch of numbers and stats and everything that I wanted to look at, and so we're busting out the Streamlabs once more. I apologize for the mundane video style. Today, we are talking about the New York Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks, because there have been two guys whose names have circulated around the trade block and trade conversation the past 72 hours or so that I wanted to talk about. And instead of talking about them in separate videos, we're combining them here today just because it's a little bit easier, especially since, we're on the subject of trade conversations anyway. Not saying that these guys are going to get traded for each other, just tossing them out there and covering them side by side. Starting out with the New York Rangers, because yesterday on TSN's Insider Trading segment, we had ourselves Darren Dreger make a statement as to where the Rangers could be going with their trade chips. The video is going to be linked in the description, but because, this is copyrighted material, we're not going to go ahead and play it. Instead, we have the quote from NHL Watcher. Dreger said this on yesterday's programming, that multiple sources have said that Drury is taking calls on Kaapo Kakko. Now, losing Cheadle for the remainder of the season is a big blow for the Rangers, but the Rangers have cap space and potentially the assets like Kakko to acquire a significant piece. This could be the end of an era. This could be a tragic story for a guy that was supposed to be a franchise talent in the New York Rangers system. Second overall pick in 2019 behind Jack Hughes, 22-year-old power forward, 6'3", 205 left-handed right-wing guy, and he signed till the end of the season, making $2.1 million a year. Kaapo Kakko has not been the best this year. 6 points, 28 games played, on pace for 13 points in 61, a very big decline from what he had last year with 40 points in 82 games played. Now, you can talk about the young guys on the Rangers. Alexis Lafreniere has been good. Kaapo Kakko has not been. The roles are kind of flipped, honestly, from last year. It's very odd just to see the progression of some of these young pieces in New York. But if the Rangers really are desperate to get themselves a top six center, they need a guy to replace Cheadle, they're looking at a guy like Elias Lindholm, for example, then maybe Kaapo Kakko has enough pedigree and star power behind his name to get a deal done. You're not trading for Kaapo Kakko because you want a guy who's got 6 points in 28 games played. No, you're trading for the guy last year who was half a point a game at only 21 years of age, and who was a second overall pick, who was the next best thing after Jack Hughes, who had this profile of prominence in junior hockey, throughout the international scene, and the TPS Turku in the Finnish Liga. This was a very good hockey player back in that time frame, and the second overall selection was not a bad one. A lot of people were saying, yeah, this is a pretty good pick for New York. It's just his progression in the system hasn't really been there, and as a result, you now have sad Rangers fans going out there and talking about how, yeah, I really wanted Kaapo Kakko to happen. This makes me sad. I doubt this happens, Blue Line 7677 says. I really doubt we move Kaapo Kakko for a rental. If we trade for Zegras, then okay, he could be involved, but not for a rental piece. RIP Country Mac gives out a reminder that taking calls does not mean he's actively being shopped, and if a GM isn't taking calls on a player, then he isn't doing his job. This is not surprising, Pierogi Daddy says. It's year 3 of Kakko being unable to perform like a top 6 right winger. Lafreniere leapfrogged him in his first year trying a new position, and there's better prospects at wing ready to come up now. 3 coaches have already felt this way about Kakko. If a package including Kakko can get a real top 6 right wing, it's a lot easier to replace him at third line right wing. I've been absolutely eating downvotes for weeks over this. I love the kid, but he just has no scoring ability. He's not going to change into a different player overnight after 300 games. So this seems to be where a lot of the Rangers fan sentiment is regarding Kakko, that he hasn't really progressed, that he hasn't shown off why he was a second overall pick, and because of his position in the lineup right now, he's a lot easier to replace in the bottom to middle 6 rather than, whatever top 6 piece you could get by trading Kakko away. If there still is another NHL team that's going out there and believing in the potential, believing in what we saw last year and his overall profile as a draft eligible. So for Kaapo Kakko, Darren Dreger had the scoop that, hey, it looks like the Rangers are considering his name in trade rumors. So for all you Kakko truthers out there, this may be a pretty sad day. Now, going over onto the other conversation, I also wanted to talk to you about Vancouver Canucks defenseman Nikita Zadorov. And yes, the Canucks did just make a trade to get Zadorov in the first place from the Calgary Flames. But we had ourselves some rumors the other day that stirred up some controversy, starting out with Don Taylor speaking on Canucks Central from 2 days ago. He said this regarding Zadorov's name being mentioned in trade rumors. You're starting to hear the odd thing. I wonder how happy the Canucks are with him, and I don't mean just on the ice. I'm wondering how he's meshing in that room. I'm not so sure there's a mesh there right now. And this is a tweet that started out a slowly creeping conversation as to whether or not the Canucks could actually trade Zadorov. Again, there's another tweet here. Halford and Bruff mentioned he heard a rumor last week that Zadorov was available as well. And this is a pretty alarming idea, considering the fact that the Vancouver Canucks actually had a really good record with Zadorov in the lineup. Here's a tweet made by Rodney. Zadorov, up to this point on January 20th, Canucks had a 14-3-3 record with Zadorov in the lineup and a 15-3-2 record with Soucy in the lineup. These two guys, with their size and their defense, big shout out over to Per Wahlgren. Oh man, it's a Wahlgren twin going out there and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate that, my friend. But Zadorov is one of these big dudes that has been introduced to the Vancouver Canucks blue line and, for all intents and purposes, has been good. He has himself 4 points in 24 games played. Of course, it's not really the point production that you're going out there and looking for when it comes to Big Zed, but he's gone out there with a very good stabilizing defensive presence and a very nice ability to hit guys. I mean, he's just an aggressive force out there. It makes the games fun to watch, it makes the opponents' lives a lot more difficult, and I'm personally a fan. But when we heard these rumors popping up, hey, there could be a trade, there's maybe not so much of a meshing going on here, we did have some rebuttals that I also thought were interesting to bring up too. Like this one. I'm going to pause the clip here because copyrighted material, but Craig Button said when it comes to the idea of trading Zadorov, if the Canucks make a decision they're not going to re-sign him, no big deal, but I'm not trading this player. Essentially, use him as a rental because that is, by definition, what he is, $3.75 mil till the end of this season. We also had this tweet from Rek Dhaliwal. Agent Dan Milstein does not believe the rumors that the Vancouver Canucks will trade defenseman Nikita Zadorov. Milstein tells me that he does not expect Zadorov to be moved at the deadline. Meanwhile, you have this idea from Grady, which I agree with a lot, which is why I wanted to bring this up in the video. It's highly unlikely the Canucks trade Zadorov unless they find a home run deal that makes them better. They acquired him for his size and snarl in a playoff run. If he's not a fit inside the room, you simply let him walk, which is fine. You didn't surrender any big assets to acquire him in the first place. And furthermore, going over the Zadorov conversation, there was the crossover episode on Sportsnet 650 and Donnie and Dolly from earlier today, where they went out there and said, yeah, I was told today the Canucks are not trying to trade Zadorov, or Big Zed, as you call him, Mr. Thomas Drance. So this has been like a short-lived kind of conversation as to whether or not Zadorov could be traded, but at the end of the day, you know, it started on Donnie and Dolly, it ended on Donnie and Dolly, and it's apparent now that Zadorov is really just a guy the Vancouver Canucks have and they're probably going to keep. Whether or not they re-sign him, that's another conversation, but the idea of trading him once more, unless the Vancouver Canucks are actually able to improve their blue line and get somebody who is significantly better, I'm not too sure that a Zadorov trade is actually going to be on the horizon here. And, I mean, look, he's always been a pretty good interview, too. Here's a quote from him in regards to being a big guy on the Canucks. It's our job, me and Tyler Myers, two big guys. We think this team has been pushed around before in the past, and now we're trying to change that mentality in here. Nobody is going to push us around, especially on home ice. We're going to play hard, and everybody's going to hate playing against us. Whether or not there are problems in the room right now, I don't really care, because this is the quote that speaks volumes to the mindset that Zadorov has, and the mindset that a lot of the other Canucks have too. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of a Nikita Zadorov trade, how it was tossed out there in trade rumors 2 days ago, but quickly got shot down by some of the same guys in the Vancouver media. Also, if you're a New York Rangers fan, let me know your thoughts in the comments about Kaapo Kakko and him being put on the trade market as well. How does this make you feel? What do you think the return would be for a guy like Kakko? Same thing could be said for Zadorov. If you're a Canucks fan, do you think there actually is a possibility that he gets traded? And if so, for what? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.